Okay, so please, yang belum siapa ini?
Nia, Pak, belum.
Siti Pak.
Nia, Siti, and
Amelinda Pak belum.
Anas,
Okay,
Pak, belum.
Nia. Okay, so we have 4, yeah, for today. Right. So we start from Nia, and then Siti, and then Amelinda, and Anas. Iwan, udah Iwan? Belum. Okay, so Iwan, 5 people. And Meisha, okay, 6 people. Right. And Salsa,
Masih banyak
and
Pak
Rofi.
sebenarnya masih banyak.
Nia juga belum Pak.
Oh my god, ternyata banyak ya. Oke, that's okay. Baik, urutannya untuk yang 5 tadi ya. So for yang sampai 5 berarti sampai Anas, nanti sisanya dilanjut dengan yang berikutnya. Berhubung Andi belum muncul, nah who will be timekeeper? Oh, Andi udah. Oke, Andi silakan, Andi yang bagian timekeepernya ya. Right? Oke, silakan start from Nia. Yang pertama, silakan Nia, please.
Apakah sudah ada?
Udah.
Ya, oke.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, good afternoon. I hope we are all always in a good health. First of all, I would like to say thank you to our lecturer who has given me a chance to make a speech in front of all of you. In this occasion, I would like to talk about one of a dangerous disease that is cervical cancer. Do you know these two women? Yes, they are Indonesian artists, Julia Perez and Titi Puspa, and they both have cervical cancer. Julia Perez was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2013, and after undergoing the operation, her life was not saved. She has died at the age of 36. And this senior singer was diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2009 and immediately underwent a series of treatments as well as regularly meditating. She was also treated in Singapore and avoided consuming raw vegetables and red meat. Titi Puspa is still diligent in meditating and looking healthy, occasionally appearing as an advertising model. So, what is cervical cancer and how can that happen? Well, cancer is a disease in which cells in the body grow out of control. Cancer is always named for the part of the body where it starts, even if it spread to other body parts later. When cervical cancer starts in the cervix, it is called cervical cancer. This cancer generally develops slowly and only shows symptoms when it has entered an advanced stage. Therefore, it is important to detect cervical cancer early before a serious problem arises. And the cervix is the part of the uterus that is connected to the vagina. Its function is to produce mucus that helps transport sperm from the vagina to the uterus during sexual intercourse. The cervix also serves to protect the uterus from bacteria and foreign objects from the outside. All women are at risk for cervical cancer. It occurs most often in women over age 30. The cause of cervical cancer is still unknown. However, studies show more than 99% of cervical cancer cases are linked to HPV or human papillomavirus. HPV is a group of viruses that infect the cervix. This virus is generally transmitted through sexual contact. And a person will be more at risk of contracting HPV infection and developing cervical cancer if they start having sex at an early age, having more than one sexual partner, having a weak immune system due to HIV or AIDS, and suffering from sexually transmitted infections such as gonorrhea, chlamydia, and syphilis. In addition to HPV infection, there are several other factors that are known to increase a person's risk of developing cervical cancer, like smoking, taking birth control pills for 5 years or more, giving birth to more than 5 children, or giving birth under the age of 17, and taking medication to prevent miscarriage during pregnancy. So, what are the symptoms of cervical cancer? Cervical cancer generally only shows symptoms when it has entered an advanced stage. Complaint experienced by cervical cancer sufferers can include vaginal bleeding outside of menstruation, after sex, or after menopause, a foul-smelling discharge from the vagina that is sometimes mixed with blood, pain occurs every time you have sex, and pelvic pain. As the cancer spreads to surrounding tissue, other symptoms may appear, including difficulty urinating, hematuria, bloody stools, weight loss, seizures, and so on. Early detection of cervical cancer can increase the chances of successful treatment. If the pap smear result show abnormalities in the cervix, you will be given a referral to a specialist in the female reproductive system. Generally, the examination carried out include colposcopy procedure. This examination aims to see abnormalities in the cervix. If abnormalities are seen, a tissue sample will be taken from the cervix to be analyzed for cancer cells. And then cone biopsy. The effect of this examination is that the patient may experience painful bleeding similar to menstrual symptoms for up to 4 weeks post-operatively. And then further examination if the biopsy results show that the patient has cervical cancer. This further examination are blood tests, pelvic organ examination, CT scan, MRI scans, chest X-ray, and PIT scans. After all the tests are done, the stage of the cancer can be determined. Staging is used as a mark of how far the cancer has spread. The higher the stage, the wider the spread of the cancer. And here are the stage of cervical cancer. 0 stage or precancerous stage. There are no cancer cells in the cervix, but there are biological changes that have the potential to trigger cancer later in life. This stage is known as cervical intraepithelial neoplasia or carcinoma in situ. And then in the first stage, the cancer is still in the cervix and has not spread. In the second stage, the cancer has spread beyond the cervix and into the surrounding tissue, but it hasn't reached the pelvic wall or the bottom of the vagina. In the third stage, the cancer has spread to the lower part of the vagina and or the pelvic wall. And last, in the fourth stage, the cancer has spread to the intestines, bladder, or other organs such as lungs. And treatment of cervical cancer depends on the stage of cancer experienced by the patient and their health condition. Action performed by doctors include chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, or a combination of the three. So, what's the prevention that can reduce the risk of cervical cancer? The first prevention is cervical screening or pap smear are recommended because they can detect early abnormalities and cell changes in the cervix, which can potentially cause the cervical cancer. For women aged 21 up to 29 years, it is recommended to have a pap smear every 3 years. In women aged 30 up to 64 years, a combination of pap smear and HPV DNA test can be done every 5 years. And in women aged 65 years and over, they can ask the doctor for advice about the need for a pap smear. The second prevention is get tests for disease such as chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis every year if you are a sexually active woman and are over the age of 21 and have a high risk of sexually transmitted disease. And if necessary, do an HIV test every year. The third prevention is getting the HPV vaccine because it can help you prevent the HPV infection, which can also reduce your risk of cervical cancer and other cancers associated with HPV. And then having safe sex. You can using condom every time you have sex and limiting the number of sexual partner you have. And then do not smoke and drink alcohol because it can increase your risk of cervical cancer many times. Smoking can also cause you to develop other cancer such as squamous cell cancer. And the last prevention is increase your body's power by eating nutrition foods, getting enough rest, and exercising at moderate intensity so that your body will also become more fit. So that's all from me. Thanks for attention. Any question?
May I? Nia?
Of course.
Okay. I just curious about we are as a woman we can get cervical cancer because we have cervix. But how about a man? Can a man get cervical cancer?
As I explained before, that cancer is always named for the part of the body when it starts. So when the cancer starts in the brain, it is called brain cancer. And when it starts in the cervix, it is called cervical cancer. And the cervix is the part of uterus that is connected vagina. And so the cervix is only owned by women. And can men get cervical cancer? Actually, no, but men also have to be vigilant because the virus that causes a cervical cancer can also attack men, especially for those who are homosexual, bisexual, and HIV or AIDS. And this HPV infection can cause penis cancer, anus cancer, throat cancer, and even tongue cancer. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Nia.
It's 9 minutes and 39 seconds, sir, without the Q&A section.
Thank you. Silakan next. Langsung saja. Please.
Yes, sir.
Silakan, siapa? Udah siap?
Sepertinya Siti Karisma ada trouble, Pak.
Oh, udah. Oke. Sebentar. Ke ini ya, terlempar kayaknya Siti. Baik. Yang berikutnya dulu deh sambil nunggu Siti. Yang berikutnya siapa?
Amelinda, sir.
Melinda. Oke. Sambil nunggu Siti masuk lagi, Amelinda silakan.
And a lot of undergraduates have made great contribution to the economic and social development in Fujian province. The second part I will
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Amelinda Aprilia Surajat. On this occasion, I want to explain about the process of cervical cancer. For women, cervical cancer might already be familiar, because in fact, of course, all women worry about it. According to ScienceCompass.com, every year there are about 14,000 women diagnosed with cervical cancer, and more than 7,000 people die from this disease. Life expectancy in cervical cancer patients depends on stage they are experiencing. This figure is an illustration of the percentage of patients who are still alive 5 years after being diagnosed with cervical cancer. From WHO Global Can data states that every hour a woman in Indonesia dies because of cervical cancer, while in the world, every 2 minutes a woman dies of disease caused by HPV or human papillomavirus. So that's why I want to explain about this topic. Hope we are more vigilant and more concerned about health. The first is explanation. What is cervical cancer? Before I explain the cancer, I will explain about what is cervix. The cervix is the lower part of the uterus that's connected to the vagina. One of the functions of the cervix is to produce mucus. Mucus helps transport sperm from the vagina to the uterus during have sex. And then what is cervical cancer? Cervical cancer is cancer that grow in cell in the cervix. This cancer generally develops slowly and only shows symptoms when it has entered an advanced stage. There are 2 types of cervical cancer. First is squamous cell carcinoma, and the second is adenocarcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma, or we can call it SCC, is the most common type of cervical cancer. SCC begins in the cervical squamous cell, the cell that line the outside of the cervix. And then for adenocarcinoma, it's a type of cervical cancer that starts in gland cell in the cervical canal. And then, how cervical cancer develops? The cause of cervical cancer is human papillomavirus, or HPV, which is the cause of cervical cancer, while the cause of many deaths in women is the HPV type 16 and type 18. This virus is very easy to move and spread, not only through fluids, but also can transfer through the touch of the skin. You can see to the second picture. It is an example HPV that transmits through the skin, and the first picture is a form of the virus. But some people say the cause of cervical cancer has not been determined. But this condition is formed when cells in the cervix or cervix develop into malignant. Cervical cancer
is closely related to human papillomavirus infection. And then next to the symptoms, the first is bleeding from the vagina outside of menstrual periods, after sex, or after menopause. And then second, vaginal discharge that's watery, brown in color, mixed with blood, and has a foul smell. And then third, pelvic or back pain that does not subside. And the last is pain when urinating or having sex. There is a blood in the urine. And then how to prevent cervical cancer. First is get vaccinated against HPV. HPV vaccination is the one of the most effective ways to prevent infection with the HPV virus that can cause cervical cancer. Then perform pap smear examination, and then have safe and healthy sexual relation. Next to how to treat cervical cancer. Treatment of cervical cancer depends on stage of cancer experienced by the patient and health condition. Action performed by doctor include chemotherapy, radiotherapy, surgery, or a combination of the three. Therefore, every woman is advised to undergo cervical cancer screening regularly from the age of 21 years or since marriage. In addition, the HPV infection that can trigger cancer can also done with a vaccine from the age of 10 years. And then the last stage of cervical cancer, I will discuss the characteristic or sign that are felt at each stage. Stadium 1, cancer cell invade the cervix but do not grow outside the uterus. But did you know that in the early stage, there are almost no symptoms that signal the presence of this disease that settle in the body? Stadium 2, cancer cells spread beyond in the cervix and uterus, not to the pelvic wall or lower part of the vagina. Stadium 3, cancer cells spread to the pelvic wall or the lower part of the vagina to the urinary tract. And then the last stadium 4, cancer cells spread to the bladder or rectum and to other parts of the body. So let's prevent cervical cancer with the HPV virus before it's too late. That's enough from me. Thank you for your attention. I hope the information is useful. I'm so sorry if there are any mistake from my explanation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, time? Okay, good. Thank you, Andy. Next, ada pertanyaan? No question?
Design quantitative investment simulation with the development of technology.
Nggak ada? Baik, next, please. Siti, ada lagi nggak tadi? Nggak ada ya? Oke, berikutnya. Next presenter.
Commodity features arbitrage, statistic arbitrage, option arbitrage, algorithmic ETF and LOF arbitrage, and high frequency arbitrage. Quantitative investment
Is there the slide?
Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Alhamdulillah, in this good opportunity, we can meet in this virtual meeting with our perfect help. And today I will present some matter about the process of an earthquake. As we know that natural disasters are a natural phenomenon that affected on Earth that can cause human and other living things to suffer effects, even they make. In fact, since the Earth will be constantly active and automatically produce all the material in the Earth's stomach, we as humans surely must accept these consequences or risks that can take place. Thus, much has been encouraged in campaigns to keep the Earth clean and healthy. It is useful to reduce the horrible things such as natural disaster, especially in a country where active circles or plates of Earth are passing is an earthquake. These are the table of contents. The first is what is an earthquake or the definition of the earthquake. The second is some factors contributed to earthquakes. The third is classification of the earthquakes. And the fourth or the last is negative effects caused by an earthquake. The first is what is an earthquake or the definition of earthquake. An earthquake is the release of energy from the Earth's tectonic plates. The zone where two tectonic plates come together is called a fault. Prior to an earthquake, tectonic forces result in a gradual build-up of strain energy stored on either side of the fault. When the local stresses along the fault become too large, the fault slips suddenly or ruptures and releases the stored strain energy. This rupture on the fault plane is called the focus, and the projection of this point on the ground surface is called the epicenter. An earthquake is caused by a sudden slip on a fault. The tectonic plates are always slowly moving, but they get stuck at their edge due to friction. When the stress on the edge overcomes the friction, there is an earthquake that releases energy in waves that travel through the Earth's crust and cause the shaking that we feel. Continue to some factors contributed to earthquake. The first factor is the shifting of earth plates. According to BMKG, earthquakes caused by cracks in the rock face of the Earth's crust. The shifting plate would put pressure on the rim. That's when the earthquake hit. Most faults in the Earth's crust don't move for a long time, but in some cases, the rock on either side of a fault slowly deforms over time due to tectonic forces. Earthquakes are usually caused when underground rock suddenly breaks and there is rapid motion along a fault. The sudden release of energy causes the seismic waves that make the ground shake. During and after the earthquake, the plates or blocks of rock start moving and they continue to move until they get stuck again. The spot underground where the rock first breaks is called the focus or hypocenter of the earthquake. The place right above the focus at the ground surface is called the epicenter of the earthquake. The second factor is volcanic eruption. Earthquakes are also common because of magma activity with the volcano. When it erupts, it will release material from inside the mountain, such as molten rock, gas, and liquid that causes vibration around the volcano. Volcanic earthquakes are relatively small and only around the mountains are those affected by them. In the world, only 7% of earthquakes occur as a result of volcanic activity. The third factor is landslide. Natural phenomena such as landslide and cavern collapse can cause earthquakes. Quakes caused by this factor usually have small impact and narrow area. The last factor is human error. Human interference has also been known to cause earthquakes. Man-made quakes are commonly called induced seismicity. For example, testing powerful explosives such as an atomic bomb or a hydrogen warhead may also trigger an earthquake. Or for example, excessive and uncontrolled mining can also impair the natural contours of Earth's plate and make it prone to shift. Other non-natural factors that can also cause earthquakes, including a dramatic decline in soil density and water loss. Okay, the next topic is classification of the earthquakes. The first is tectonic. The process of earthquake based on the first type is the tectonic earthquake. Tectonic earthquakes are due to the polarization of the earth plates or the shifting of the earth plates. It produces an effect on the surface of the earth that eventually causes earthquake. As explained, that are most common in nature and can begin at varying degrees, from a lower scale to a very large one. The process of tectonic earthquakes starts with interplay between plates that can cause other plates to enter off, infiltrate below, and are commonly called subduction. Earthquakes or vibration will change when there is something troubling, will then infiltrate suddenly. We sometimes crack the ground and swallows the various buildings and so forth. The second is volcanic earthquakes. The volcanoes have a dominant period where they can erupt as a result of pressure as well as rock energy that is released or triggered. You are aware that volcanic eruptions are usually preceded by jolts or friction between magma and the Earth's balls, which ultimately cause the earthquakes. If the mountain is in the sea, it causes an earthquake with a sea wave or a catastrophic tsunami. The third is explosion. Earthquakes can do considerable damage to buildings, as homes, schools of buildings and malls. When the shaking is high, the building may collapse or shatter. There could be casualties. Tectonic quakes are the result of a shift in the Earth's crust. The shifting of the Earth's crust along fault lines creates vibration and ripples that then travel in all directions through the material that make up the Earth. Tectonic quakes are the most powerful and frequent. About 93% of all quakes in the world include tectonic quakes. And a volcanic earthquake caused by an event of volcanism, either before or after a volcanic eruption. The magma expelled from the volcanic pipes shifted along with rock and vibration transmitted through the earth crust building matter. This is happening when volcanoes are about to erupt so that volcanic quakes can signal volcanic activity. And also explosion is the kind of earthquakes that occur as a result of human activity on the surface. It is also referred to as an earthquake that collapses or breaks the earth. The quake was small, affected by only about 10 feet, 1 until 100 meters. We continue to the last topic is negative effect caused by an earthquake. The first is structural damage. The second is installation damage, and third is flooding. The earthquake can cause water, gas, and electric power to malfunction. Broken water installation make it difficult for many to obtain clean water after an earthquake. Faulty gas can cause an explosion for a fire, so are broken electrical installation. When an electric cable is exposed, it may cause a short circuit and endanger those around it. And then, when an earthquake is high enough, the walls of a dam can crack and even shatter, and so the waters in dams can overflow. That's all what I can explain to you all. Thank you so much for your good attention. I'm so sorry for making mistake. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Akhirnya menjadi cek ke Pak Eka. Di mana Pak Eka?
Okay, thanks. Next, thanks Anas, and thanks Andi. Berikutnya silahkan. Siapa yang Rofi juga boleh silahkan. If you ready. Kalau enggak ke berikutnya ke Iwan boleh kalau sudah siap.
Boleh.
Nah, Iwan silakan. Please.
Okay, thank you. Well, I would say that all of you have your own smartphone, and you know, when we're using our smartphone, then we'll start scrolling on our social media, such as Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We all may have seen these memes. Yeah, this one or this one. And after the rainy seasons come, we finally this. You know, a lot of people or even yourself or maybe laughing while seeing these memes. But have you ever wondered about terrible facts behind those hilarious memes? Well, you may agree that days before the rainy season comes, that the days are warmer or even hotter than when we were kids, or the summer is getting longer than before, or the weather that is hard to be predicted. It is like a day where the rain is falling heavily, such as some days or before days, but the other days is really hot. So what is exactly going on here? Well, I've started this talk with a picture of a young girl. It is Greta Thunberg. You must seen this girl. She is a young environmental activist who concerns about the climate change and global warming. And did you know why this young girl really cares about global warming, even at her young age? Why did she really cares about it? And the biggest question is, why do we have to care about it? So is the global warming real? You know, you feel that a few months ago, before today's rainy season's coming, we had hotter days and longer dry seasons. And in fact, this is something that is not only in Indonesia. The increase of temperature, the disaster, and the climate change as the result of the global warming also happens almost all around the globe. And you know, according to the data, the average global temperature on Earth has increased by a little more than 1 degree Celsius since 1880, with the greatest change happening in the late 20th century. Land Earth have warmed more than sea surface, and Arctic has warmed the most by more than 2 degrees Celsius since 1960s. And also the temperature extreme has shifted. So then we know that the increased temperature is not a myth, and the global warming, unfortunately, is a horrible fact that has been happening for centuries. Then again, the biggest question is, how could global warming happen? You know, human activities from pollution to overpopulations are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally change the world around us. The main cause of the global warming, known as greenhouse effect. You know, the gases at the atmosphere, such as the water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbon or CFC, let the sun slide in, but keep some of them heat from escaping, like the glass wall of the greenhouse. You know, the more greenhouse at the temperature, the more heat gets trapped. So it will be strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. And then human activities like the burning of fossil fuels have increased of amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by more than a third since industrial revolution. While the Earth climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's level in hundreds of thousands of years. The rapid increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at a alarming rate. However, an agreement has made. The Paris Agreement, which was conducted in 2015, set out the global framework to avoid dangerous climate change by limiting the global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing effort to limit it to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It also aims to strengthen countries' ability to deal with the impact of the climate change and support them in their efforts. While some people may think that why you have to be scared for the increase of 1.5 up to 2 degrees Celsius of the Earth's temperature. But do you know what will happen while the Earth's average temperature is increasing 2 or more degrees Celsius? You know, most land regions will be more hot days, especially in the tropics. At 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, about 14% of Earth population will be exposed to severe heat wave at least once every 5 years, while at 2 degrees warming, the number jumps to 37%. Hence, by limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, it would reduce the number of people frequently exposed to the extreme heat wave by about 420 million. And in 2 degrees Celsius warmer, the world will cause us about 61 million more people on Earth urban areas would be exposed to the severe drought, and between 184 and 270 million fewer people are projected to be exposed to increase in water scarcity in 2050 at about 1.5 degrees Celsius warming than at 2 degrees warming. And at 1.5 degrees Celsius warming, the report projects that climate-related risks to human health, food security, human security, water supply, and economic growth will all increase and will increase even more at 2 degrees warming. And limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius could reduce the number of people susceptible to climate-related poverty rates by as much as several hundred million by 2050. The increase of the temperature not only affects the nature, but also the human. The risk of the heat-related illness and death will be the next problem. And all these things have proven that the global warming is real, and we can fix this, but we have to start now. And as the Greta Thunberg say that humans are very adaptable, so we can fix this. We have no more excuse. Thank you. I'm Iwan Setiawan Hartono. Goodbye.
I'm sorry, sir. Can I refer the speech now?
Yes, of course, please. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Iwan and Andy. Please, Siti.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope today you're in a great condition. I believe that most of you have watched news about tsunamis or read an article about tsunamis. But when you read on or when you watch it, have you ever been curious or want to know what causes and how a tsunami can occur? In this occasion, I will explain to you how is the process of tsunami. But first, I will tell you what is tsunami first. Tsunami is a Japanese word with su is meaning harbor and nami meaning wave. Tsunami are waves caused by sudden movement of the ocean surface due to earthquakes, landslides, and large volcanic eruption. Until recently, tsunami were called tidal waves, but this term is generally discouraged because tsunami generation has nothing to do with tides, which are driven by gravity of Earth, Sun, and Moon. Although some tsunami may appear like a rapidly rising or falling tide at the coast. In other situations, they can also feature one or more turbulent breaking waves. Tsunami are different with regular waves. A tsunami is different from a wind-generated surface wave and on the ocean, while wind-generated waves in the deep water only causes water movement near the surface. The passage of a tsunami involves the movement of water from the surface to the seafloor. Interestingly, this causes the speed of a tsunami to be controlled by the water depth, with faster speed in deeper water, unlike wind-generated waves. Consequently, a tsunami slows as it approaches land and reaches increasingly shallow water, with the distance between successive waves keeps decreasing. Because the total energy within the waves does not change, the energy is transferred to increasing the wave height. This is called wave showing. And as I said, that there are three causes that there are three terms causes tsunami. First is earthquakes, and then landslide and volcanic eruption. Now I will tell you the process of tsunami that caused by earthquakes. The vast majority of tsunamis from due to earthquakes, especially tectonic tsunamis. As an earthquake happens, the ground beneath the water is moved up and down abruptly. And as this movement happens, a mass of water displaces and starts moving in all directions. This marks the start of tsunami. The displaced water starts to move as wave. At this point, it has a very low amplitude as it is located in deep water. Tsunamis in open water are usually shorter than 0.3 meters or 12 inches. As the waves start moving toward the shore, a series of events begin to occur. First of all, water gets shallower and shallower. As a result, the height of the tsunami starts to increase and can increase dramatically. This is the main reason why these waves are so dangerous. They carry on huge mass of water. When they get closer to the shoreline, the volume of the tsunami remains constant, but because of the water gets shallower, their height starts to increase. This is the 3D simulation, how the process is taking place. As you can see, the water line retreating before the tsunami hits. This is called blowback. Also, the shallow water somewhat slows down the waves and the waves start getting closer together. In the deepest part of the ocean, tsunamis can travel faster than a jet at 970 km per hour or 600 meter mph. This means that in the only a few hours, it can cross entire ocean. Tsunamis don't stop once they hit land. Much of their energy is dissipated and reflect back, but some of it still maintained, and tsunamis will continue to travel inland until all their energy is gone. So don't think if you are a bit farther from the beach, you are safe. In some rare instances, tsunamis can also travel up a river valley. In rare case, tsunamis can also be caused by landslides and volcano eruption. In all cases, the main principle is the same. A water mass is displaced and it nears shoreline. It starts growing height. However, the displacement mechanism is different. Landslides can happen on the seafloor just like on land. Areas of the seafloor that are steep and loaded with sediment, such as the edge of the continental slope, are more prone to undersea landslide. When an undersea landslide occurs, perhaps after a nearby earthquake, a large mass of sand, mud, and gravel can move down the slope. This movement will draw the water down and may cause a tsunami that will travel across the ocean. As you can see in the video, a large mass of sand, mud, and gravel move down the slope, and the movement draw the water down and cause tsunami. And the last is volcanic eruption. Although relatively infrequent, violent volcanic eruption represent also implosive disturbance, which can displace a great volume of water and generate extremely destructive tsunami waves in the immediate source area. According to this mechanism, waves may be generated by sudden displacement of water caused by a volcanic explosion, by a volcano slope failure, or more likely by a phreatomagnetic explosion and collapse of the volcanic magmatic chambers. One of the largest and most destructive tsunami ever recorded of the volcanic magma recording was generated in August 26, 1883, after explosion and collapse of the volcano of Krakatoa. This explosion generated waves that reached 135 feet, destroy coastal towns and villages along the Sunda Strait in both the islands of Java and Sumatra. It killing 36,417 people. Okay, that's all my explanation about the process of tsunami. I hope my presentation can level up your knowledge about tsunami. And if you have some questions, please ask me in this occasion.
May I?
Okay, Dewi.
Okay, my name is Dewi. I want to ask you if there is an underwater earthquake, is it certain that there will be a tsunami?
It's not certain will be tsunami. An underwater earthquake that does not generate a tsunami if the epicentrum is more than 30 kilometers below the water surface. So if it less than 30 meters, it will cause a tsunami. But if the epicenter is more than 30 kilometers below the water surface, it will not cause a tsunami. And earthquakes that trigger tsunamis are usually above 6.5 on the Richter scale and have an up and down pattern of movement. Is it clear, Dewi?
Yes, it is clear. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, maybe that's my presentation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Next, silakan lanjut berikutnya.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Misha. Yes.
Yeah. Sudah terlihat? Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Misha Romantika. I hope you all in a good health and good condition as well. First of all, thank you to Mr. Denny Kodra for allowing me to give a presentation in this opportunity. Since the beginning of 2020, we are facing and suffering with the danger of coronavirus that continues to spread and attack us, and we should change some methods and new habits of life. One of them is by doing online learning. But did you know that there are other viruses that attack humans in other parts of the world, one of which is the Ebola virus? Have you heard about the virus and how does it spread? Perhaps some of you are not familiar with this virus because the Ebola virus has not been found in Indonesia, unlike the coronavirus, which is attacked almost all humans in some parts of the world. So today, I would like to explain first about the Ebola infection and how does it spread. So what is the Ebola virus? Ebola virus disease is a disease caused by the Ebola virus, which is member of filovirus family. This disease is known as Ebola virus disease or EVD or Ebola hemorrhagic fever. EVD most commonly affects people and non-human primates such as monkeys, gorillas, and chimpanzees. And it is caused by an infection with a group of viruses within the genus Ebola virus, such as Ebola virus, Sudan virus, Tay forest virus, Bundibugyo virus, Riston virus, and Bombali virus. And of this, only 4 have caused disease in people. Riston virus can cause disease in human primates and pigs, but there have not been cases in people. And Bombali virus was first identified in bats in 2018, and experts don't know yet if it causes disease in either animals or humans. Okay, next, about the history of Ebola virus. Ebola virus was first discovered in 1876 in 2 places simultaneously. They were in near the Ebola River in Yambuku, Democratic Republic of Congo, and in Zara, South Sudan. After that, in March 2014, there was outbreak in West Africa, and it is the biggest and the most complex since the Ebola virus was first discovered in 1876. The worst affected countries are Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. 6 countries in West Africa that experience extraordinary cases are Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Nigeria, Senegal, and Mali, with a total of 39.52% deaths per total cases based on World Health data June 2016. And how does it transmit? Scientists don't know where the Ebola virus comes from. Based on similar viruses, they believe that EVD is animal-borne, with bats or non-human primates being the most likely source. This is called spillover event. After that, the virus spreads from person to person, potentially affecting a large number of people. The virus spreads through direct contact, such as through broken skin or mucous membranes in the eyes, nose, or mouth with blood or body fluids, such as urine, saliva, sweat, feces, vomit, breast milk of a person who has EVD. Then objects such as clothes, bedding, needles from a person who has EVD. Then an infect fruit bats or non-human primates such as monkeys and apes. When people become infected with Ebola, they don't start developing signs of symptoms right away. This period between exposure to an illness and having symptoms is known as the incubation period. A person can only spread Ebola to other people after they develop signs and symptoms of Ebola. Then this is a sign of symptoms such as fever, headache, muscle pain, weakness, diarrhea and abdominal pain, vomit, sore throat, loss of appetite, hard to breathe, and unusual bleeding. And for the diagnosis, such as the patient as a case under investigation or confirmation based on history and sign of symptoms. Then confirmation cases, probable cases, people under surveillance, cluster, and contact. How to prevent and treat it. How to prevent Ebola virus, such as avoid contact with patients, blood and body fluids, bats and non-human primates, items, and avoid funeral. Then to maintain our health and hygiene, such as check body temperature, wash hands frequently, wear masks, and use hand sanitizer. And the last is get vaccinated if you want to travel to an infected area or country. How to treatment is such as providing fluids and electrolysis orally or through infusion into the vein, treating other infection if they occur, and then using medication to support blood pressure, reduce vomiting and diarrhea, and to manage fever and pain. Is there a vaccine for Ebola virus? Yes. Recent research advances have produced some effective tools against EVD. These include two vaccines against EVD that have recently received regulatory approval, such as a single dose vaccine made by Merck, and then the second dose vaccine made by Janssen. So even though that the risk of Ebola virus in Indonesia is low, but we should aware with this virus, and So we are to stay healthy and to maintain health and hygiene comply with applicable health. Is there any question?
Me,
Yes, Didi.
I am Dini. I wanna ask to you, are there any other cases recently? Where is it exactly? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Denny, for asking. I will tell you the timeline of the Ebola outbreak that happened recently in 2021. On February 2021, Guinea announced that there was case had been confirmed in Zerkore Prefecture. Then on June 2021, they announced that the outbreak was over with a total 23 cases of probable and confirmed cases and 12 deaths were reported. Then on February 2021, Democratic Republic of Congo announced that EPD had been confirmed in Diana Health Zone in North Kivu province. But on May 3rd, 2021, after reaching 42 days with no cases after the last survivor test negative, World Health Organization announced that the outbreak was over with a total 12 cases of probable and confirmed cases and 6 deaths were reported. I think that's all. Is it clear, Dini?
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam. Next, we still have about 10 minutes ya, more or less. Silakan.
May I, sir?
Yes, please. Irving ya. Oh, salsa. Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, good afternoon. How are you? It's been great, hasn't it? First of all, thank you to Mr. Dini Kudrat who has given me an opportunity to speak in this occasion. Wait. Today is November 26th. Did you know or have heard that in Indonesia, the month ending with the letter BER or Ber in Indonesian, it's a sign of rainy season? September, October, November, and December. It's November already, and we are having a rainy season. When it rains, have you ever thought where do the raindrops come from? Is it from outer space or someone crying? No, it's all the water cycle about. Rain is one of the hydrological cycles, which is a cycle of water circulation from the earth to the atmosphere and back again to the earth and continues continuously. A light breeze, gray-black clouds, rumbling sounds from the sky are all signs that it will rain soon. The process of rain not as simple as that. There are several stages: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, runoff, and percolation. Let me start explain about evaporation. The water cycle starts with evaporation. It is a process where water at the surface turns into water vapor. Water absorbs heat energy from the sun and turns into vapor from the water bodies like the ocean, the seas, the lakes, and the river bodies. These are the main source of evaporation. Through the evaporation, water moves from the hydrosphere to the atmosphere. As the water evaporates, it reduces the temperature of the bodies. And the next is condensation. Water vapor that rises at a certain height will undergo a process of condensation. The condensation process occurs where the water vapor turns into very small ice particles. The change in the form of water vapor ice occurs due to the influence of the very low air temperature at the altitude. The ice particles that are formed will approach each other and unite with each other to form clouds. The more particles that combine, the cloud that is formed will also be thicker and blacker. The process of joining ice or water droplets into clouds is called coalescence. And the next is precipitation. The process of precipitation is the process of melting clouds due to the influence of high air temperatures. In this process, rain occurs. Water droplets fall and wet the Earth's surface. The clouds that are formed are then blown by the wind and experience displacement from one place to another. This process is called advection. Advection allows clouds to spread and move from the ocean atmosphere to the land atmosphere. These wind-borne clouds will grow in size as they continue to merge with other clouds. The ice grains in the clouds will be attracted by the Earth's gravity until they finally fall to the Earth's surface. When they fall, these ice granules pass through a layer of warmer air inside, turning them into water droplets. The warm air layer makes the water droplets partially evaporate back up and some continue to fall to the Earth's surface. Drops of water that fall to the Earth is called rain. If the temperature around the cloud is too low, to around -0 degrees Celsius, precipitation allows snow to occur. Clouds that contain a lot of water will descend to the lithosphere in the form of thin snowflakes, as we can find in subtropical climates. And the next is runoff. Runoff is a flow from a drainage basin or watershed that appears in surface streams. It generally consists of the flow that is unaffected by artificial diversion, storage, or other works that society might have on or in a stream channel. The flow is made up partly of precipitation that falls directly on the stream, surface runoff that flows over the land surface and through channels, subsurface runoff that infiltrates the surface soil and moves laterally towards the stream, and groundwater runoff from the deep percolation through the soil horizons. Part of the subsurface flow enters the stream quickly, while the remaining portion may take a longer period before joining the water in the stream. When each of the component flows enter the stream, they form the total runoff. The total runoff in the stream channels is called stream flow, and it's generally regarded as direct runoff or base flow. And the last is percolation. Sometimes the water turns into groundwater or water that are soaked up into the ground. This process is called percolation. Water flows downward under the layers of the soil and then it starts again. Percolation is the movement of water to the soil and its layer by gravity and capillary forces. The prime moving force of groundwater is gravity. For all practical purposes. All underground, the water is moved by gravity. Usually, the direction of water movement is changed from downward, and a horizontal component to the movement is added that is based on the geologic boundary condition. Geologic formation in the earth crust serve as natural subterranean reservoirs for storing water. A geologic formation which transmits water from one location to another in sufficient quantity for economic development is called an aquifer. The movement of water is possible because of the voids or pores in the geologic formation. Some formations conduct water back to the ground surface. A spring is a place where the water table reaches the ground surface, and stream channels can be in contact with an unconfined aquifer that approach the ground surface. Water may move from the ground into the stream or vice versa, depending on the relative water level. So that's all the explanation from me. Any question?
Sebenarnya Dr. Benny tuh ngantarnya di mana sih?
Okay, next, but we have to stop because time is up. So for those who haven't presented yet, can be next week, yeah. So and also well prepared. Actually, so sorry, I have many distractions today because I also have international conference at the same time. But I will watch again on YouTube. Ya, itu makanya sengaja di-linkkan di YouTube supaya nanti saya bisa mengecek kembali. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.